And then on my interview with Erin, she asks, again, a question from Laura, is, what are your thoughts on the disconnect and interplay of these educational institutions after interviewing so many people from such varied backgrounds? And this is within the context of folks like Erin straddling the line between their professional careers and doing outreach. So, let's see, I guess the best way to answer this question is I think that it is great that so many institutions are starting to do outreach like this, especially having folks who are professionals within their field doing the outreach themselves. And if you go on to Tumblr, I've found that there are a lot of organizations and institutions on Tumblr that do outreach. For example, the Nature Conservancy and JSTOR. Basically every single PBS channel has their own Tumblr feed. And the American Museum of Natural History has a Tumblr feed, and they just started up a YouTube channel, which is really, really well done. But they don't do it in the standard YouTube fashion. Like, they use their YouTube channel to produce shows and then put those shows out to the general public. And I think that's cool, and it's different. It's different, and I'm going to talk about that more in a little bit. Next question. Aranea asks in T-Mike's interview, is there a reason that I don't record myself asking the questions in real time? Yes, there is. Part of it, and I've already answered this, but I'll answer it again with my face. Part of the reason that I don't ask the questions in real time is like, well, I do, but I cut that out because, for one, the audio quality is not as good. I only have one microphone, and I would prefer to use it to get good audio on the person I'm interviewing. The other part of it is when I ask the questions, sometimes I have to mull the question around in my brain a little bit, and then mull it around by talking it through with the person. And that takes a lot of time. One of the things that you don't see is I edit out a lot of my own talking, and I do a lot of talking with the people that I'm interviewing. Sometimes we have straight up discussions, and it'll be from those discussions that the questions stem. And so I like to be a little bit more succinct and, you know, derive a question from an entire discussion to make it just more to the point and to save time, both the viewer's time and my editing time. Joy on Greg and Mitchell's interview asks, do you think it's harder to build a community around an educational channel, and any thoughts on why? I think that, not necessarily. So I think one of the things that makes building a community around an educational channel more doable is having something like this. Like, you have to have interactions with the people outside of the educational realm. And so if you look at ASAP Science, Greg and Mitchell's channel, for example, they do drawing stuff. They are not the subjects of their channel. They do a lot of really cool stuff with their channel, but they themselves, they aren't personalities that are associated with their channels. It's Mitch's voice, basically, that you hear, and then Greg's drawings. And I think it's hard for people to relate to that. And I think Greg and Mitch understand that, and they have that conceptualized. And that is one of the reasons that they do it, what they're doing, is they don't want to distract from the educational side of what they're doing. Now, you flip that, and you look at, you know, what Hank and John do. You have communities formed up around these guys that were basically pre-existing conditions before they started, you know, Crash Course and SciShow. And they brought their communities into that, and that was an easier thing for them to do because people already were familiar with them, and they were, well, emotionally invested in John and Hank. And it's the same reason that, you know, Craig Benzine, now that he's starting Crash Course Civics, people know Craig from, you know, Wheezy Waiter, and they like him, and that's what makes him a good teacher for Crash Course, is he has an established personality that people relate to. Now, that's not to say that it's necessarily more or less difficult to form a community around an educational channel, but I think that if you do want to start a community around your channel, there are things that you have to do besides just teach. Focus on human interaction, and I think it'll be a little bit easier. There's one more thing about that. Like, I do think it's a matter of scale. The larger that the community is, the less community it becomes. For example, if you look at Betty, if you look at my interview with Betty, you can tell that her community, even though it's small, is really, really potent. Her interview doesn't have that many views, but it has a whole bunch of likes, and it's a really good ratio. It's like 1 to 7 or 1 to 8, whereas if you go and you look at, I don't know, even Hank's, it's a ratio of like 1 to 20 or 1 to 30, you know, 1 like per 30 views or 20 views or something like that. And I think that when you're smaller, like even where I'm at, you know, I have 760 subscribers odd, and only like 150 or 160 consistent views. But the people who do this, like the people who are consistent, I love you guys. You guys are great. You guys are the ones who are watching this, and knowing that you exist make me want to do this video for you guys. Because you're engaged with this, you're emotionally there with me. You care, and I think that's the best thing in the world. So yeah, there you go. And Sidejoy, just so you know, I have checked out your channel. I think it's great. So keep it up. We're going to teach them science together. And I like the fact that you do stuff for kids. So carry on smartly. Oh, actually, one more thing about that. So, nerd fighters. Nerd fighters are an interesting group of people. And I want to give a huge shout out to Valerie. Valerie Barr, who maybe you don't know, but you really should. Valerie does a lot of the community organization and just awesomeness that makes Nerdfighteria possible. She runs the nerdfighteria.org website, she does the newsletter, she does almost all of the community outreach for Nerdfighters, and I think that when you do get bigger, like John and Hank are and Crash Course and Vlogbrothers and SciShow, when you do get into the millions of, you know, fans and subscribers and friends, like, having somebody solely dedicated to that is huge. And Valerie does a bang-up job at it, and I just want to make sure that she gets credit for this. When I was in Missoula, I wanted to interview her, but time was not possible. But she does such an amazing, important thing that it deserves to be called out. So, Valerie, here's looking at you. You're the best. The best. Alright. Now, Maura asks on Betty's interview about, because I mentioned that I asked the same questions of everyone. She asks me, do you think that you're still garnering the answers and discussions I want from the videos with these questions? Yes. Yes, I do. And you did mention that, like, you recognize that when you ask people the same question to multiple people, it does help you recognize patterns. I'm still getting the answers I want because, for example, looking at Aaron's interview, you know, when I ask, you know, what surprised you most about YouTube, everybody else is like, the community is this, or the community is that, or, like, the fact that it happened at all, or the fact that people like what I'm doing. And then Aaron comes out of nowhere, out of left field, and answers totally counterintuitively, oh man, I love the YouTube comment section. Everybody's so civil there. It's like, what? Who? Okay, and that was a surprising thing. But then when you start to think about why he views it that way, like, part of it has to do with the fact that he's not just on YouTube. He is on all of these other media. He has his own blog, he is a correspondent for MSNBC every now and then, and CNN. And when you think about the comment section and those, oh man, it makes way more sense. So yeah, I think I am still getting the answers that I'm hoping for. And then you follow up with, at what point would you start to change the questions or shift the discussion, if at all? So I ask the same questions, and I probably will continue to ask the same questions for as long as I do this project, because those questions allow me to shift the discussion. What people say, like the surprising answers that you get, or the patterns that I've been starting to recognize, those help me, like, formulate new questions that are related, or, you know, they give me material to dig deep with. And I think that's great. And of course, for each person, I do ask a set of personal questions. I have the big pool of questions for everyone, then I have a pool of questions that I make specifically for different people. So yeah, because I mean, not all questions are applicable for everyone. So hopefully that answers your question. And then Koojmouse asks on Tumblr, have I ever been interviewed? And is that what this Q&A is? Are we now meta-tubing? So to answer your question, no, I've never been interviewed. I wouldn't mind. I don't have anything against it, it just hasn't happened. That said, funny story, so when I was in Missoula, I was staying with Lindsay, and I needed a break from editing, and so, you know, I stopped editing, and then she was like, Peter, let me interview you, and I was like, okay. And so she pulls out her camera, and she starts interviewing me, and then I discovered how terrifying it is to be interviewed. Oh man. And I had so much more empathy for my subjects after that, and I was like, oh man, this is the best thing ever. I totally empathize with these people as my phone. And I think that was a really good thing for me to have happen, because it, like, I understand from my point of view as the interviewer of these people, I get really nervous. But I hadn't quite conceptualized that they might be nervous as well, because I had never been in their shoes, and so having the tables turned, as it were, helped me understand from what angle I'm approaching this, and helped me adjust a few things that I do. Yeah, because I want people to be comfortable. I don't want people to think that I'm trying to trap them, because I'm certainly not. I just want people to be honest with me. And so, you know, I take some time before I interview people to get to know them. We chat for, you know, anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes just about stuff. And I tell them, you know, what to expect, what I'm going to be doing with it. Because I think that's important. I want, you know, when people are more relaxed, it lets their brain do different things than if they're kind of defensive. So, and I like the stuff that people's brains do when they're not defensive. You get more honesty, and you get more stream of consciousness stuff like this. So, yeah. And then Betty asks on Twitter, what is my favorite place that I've traveled to? Toronto was really great, Betty. But also, well, I mean, I don't know, everywhere. I liked Toronto, I liked Vancouver, I really like Canada just in general. Canada's an amazing place. But I also like Spain. When I was in Madrid, I met a really awesome bunch of people, but then so was Barcelona. And I've got interviews from both of those places coming up. So stay tuned, especially if you're a Spanish speaker. They will be in Spanish, but I'll subtitle them. Spoilers. Missoula is a weird place, and I don't understand it, but it's really cool too. And, you know, it has some of my most favorite people, so of course I love Missoula. Everywhere that I've been is my favorite place, and I hope to go back to every single place in the future. But I also hope to go to new places, so that's that. Alright guys, well that's it. Thank you for watching and thank you for caring. And if you guys have any more questions, by all means, let me know on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, YouTube of course, in the comments to this video or any other video. I want to know what you guys want to know. So please tell me. And maybe I'll do another one of these, eventually. Alright guys, until next time, thanks for caring. I will see you guys later, and that's it. Alright, bye guys.